Greetings and welcome to our first ever episode of You Had Me at Halo, where we talk about everything past, present, and future of one of gaming's most storied franchises. For today's topics, we're going to step back into the past, revel in some nostalgia, and talk about our first experience with the Halo franchise. Then we'll talk about the potential future release dates for Halo Infinite and the return of Joseph Staten. First, let's meet today's Spartan team. Joining me today is Spartan Kage Maru.
Yo. Hi.
Hey, how's it going? All right, let's
Good.
I guess we didn't think about this too much.
I'm sorry. Just the way that you said my name, it took everything in me not to just bust out laughing. But
I don't know how to. Okay, Kage Maru. I said it right.
No, you did. It's just you put like the strong emphasis on it, and it. Anyways, let's go. All
right. So, joining me today, Spartan Kage Maru.
Hello.
Next up, we have Spartan Soul Blazer.
Hey guys, good to be here. Good to finally get this ball rolling.
Also, we have Spartan Jesse Don Cabeza.
Jesse? I mean, hello everyone. How are you?
Sorry. Damn it. Do I got to do that again?
No, that was perfect.
All right. Next, Spartan Austin.
Hello.
He's still doing a pee break.
Austin, no problem.
I was going to throw a Bueller.
You know what? We're making a lot of work for our editor.
No. I seriously think we should just keep the whole intro in
release
there.
the unedited cut.
Yeah.
All right, and then holy shit! All right, let me gather myself here. Finally, as your host today, Spartan One Bad Mother. Oh shit! I didn't even say that right.
It's your own name.
Let me do that again.
Wait, you said your own name, right?
No, I said as. I didn't say anything after that. Finally, as your host today, I'm Spartan One Bad Mother. Now, before we get into the meat of today's topics, I thought we could start by talking about why we're doing this podcast. Soul Blazer, why don't you kick us off here and tell us, some of the things that made you decide to take part in this podcast and what you hope to get out of it.
Yeah, sure. No problem. So I think one of the main things for me is there's numerous Halo fans out there. Thousands, tens of thousands, millions, who knows. But there's fewer Halo fans who still actively enjoy the games, if you know what I mean. You'll find a lot of lapsed fans or people who used to play and don't really care anymore. So I wanted to do a podcast or some kind of program for people who still enjoy the franchise and who aren't burned out and want to talk about it, you know what I mean, in a both a positive and a negative way, but not just about bashing it.
Yeah, that's awesome, man, and I agree with you. I think a lot of times we lose sight of why we ever came to the franchise to begin with. Anybody else have any thoughts on that?
Yeah. So, no, actually, I mean, I absolutely love that we're getting the chance to talk about this franchise, just because. We're all passionate about it. We all have different views, different angles, and I've tried my best to appreciate everything about every Halo, except Halo 2, and so it
those are fighting words.
So, well, trust me, when we get to like the remasters, that all changed. But yeah, I just absolutely love the franchise. I love being able to talk about it. And I definitely think that we have something new to bring to the table when it comes to different viewpoints that haven't been repeated, I guess, ad nausea over the internet.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'm someone that I obviously love Halo. I've been playing it basically my entire life. Probably since 2001, 2002. That's when I first started playing it. I love talking about it. Even there's some games in the series I don't love as much. Like I still enjoy talking about the games. And it's just a series that you can talk a lot about, and I've been talking about it for more than a decade now.
Yeah, for me personally, when I just think about gaming in general, I always, and I think about like the best memories I've ever had in the hobby, and I've been doing this almost 40 years now. I guess that kind of gives my age away a little bit, but I've been gaming for a long time, and the things that always stand out to me are the moments in gaming where I get to enjoy that with friends or with community. And since 2001, it's interesting because I look at my friends list on right now on Xbox Live, and I'd say 2/3 of those people are people I met through Halo, and some of them I met over at that time when Halo CE first came out, just through gaming forums. And so what's great about Halo is not just how the lore and the campaigns and everything to me, but it really is it kind of signifies the best parts of gaming. It is that community and bringing people together. So I think this is a great opportunity for us to to try to do the same thing, and we are all people that still like the franchise and still like to play it.
Let me stop you there. I'm here because I hate Halo. I'm the spice. I bring that devil's advocate side. But in reality, I actually grew up loving video games, and Halo really was the first one that I connected with my brother on, and I think we played the campaign of Halo 1 at least 100 times all the way through on either Heroic or Legendary, because we were pretty poor. It was $60, and it just offered so much, setting up LAN parties at friends' houses and family members' houses. It was the thing, and ever since then, getting deeper and deeper into the lore that was tied to the books mainly. Was actually barely ever in the games, but
yeah,
reading all those books, going through everything, it hooked me. And it's been 19 years now, and it's my favorite franchise by far. So having any opportunity to talk about it with people who aren't just going to crap all over it is something I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, I feel like if there's a game that if there's only one game you can buy, especially back in the day, Halo's one of the best ones. The sheer amount of replayability. Yeah,
absolutely. How many hours do you think you guys top off in Halo over the years?
Oh God,
a lot.
like 30,000 probably.
Yeah, I'm probably 15 to 20.
I mean, kids, right? You can play the same thing for literally forever. Find random things, find glitches here and there. I think I spent like 10 hours trying to get that Scarab gun in Halo 2. I never ended up getting it because the Banshees, that does not work. I refuse to believe it works. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, one of the greatest things about Halo is that you can play the same just campaign skirmish, let's say, or same firefight, and no two battles are the same.
Yeah.
So whether we're talking about the multiplayer or even the campaign, there's an almost infinite amount of replayability.
Which brings me... yeah, sorry, I was going to bring to another point of Halo is, one thing I thought is really interesting about the game is you have two completely different fan bases or style of plays, right? You can have someone who loves Halo but has never played Xbox Live in their life. And then you can have someone who loves Halo and has never played split screen in their life. But both of them are huge Halo multiplayer fans. But they're not the same. It's interesting.
Yeah, it's almost like a completely different game to some people. Between the
in one, I can stare at your screen and know what's going on, and in the other, I have to actually be good.
That's actually pretty accurate.
So Don, I know you talked a little bit about your first time playing Halo. How about everybody else here? Tell us a little bit about the first time you remember either playing Halo or your first experience with it.
Oh God! So the first time I played it was at a kiosk at EB Games. I think I might have been picking up my Xbox. Yeah, I was picking up my Xbox, and my game of choice that I got when I got it was Dead or Alive 3. And Halo wasn't even really on my radar. I remember playing it at the kiosk. It was right at the beginning. Like the game was just sitting there when you're in the drop pod on the Halo ring. And I remember as soon as I left, I'm walking around And it's the first time I tried anything with dual analog sticks. So I'm walking around, I'm trying to come to grips of it. And then, as you're walking around, the drop ship comes. So the drop ship comes, and I don't know what reload is. I don't know what grenades are. The whole concept of just having two weapons and instant grenade, like all of that for me was completely new because, like a lot of other people, I grew up on PC shooters like Duke Nukem, Doom, Quake, or even the console shooters that I played was, GoldenEye, some Perfect Dark. So just everything was like all of the paradigm shifts that Halo had, I wasn't prepared for at all. And I hated it. I absolutely hated it. And so, I got Dead or Alive 3, loved it. And a buddy of mine kept on telling me, he's like, man, you got to get Halo. Everyone's talking about it, great reviews, yada, yada. So him and I drove down to the same mall, same EB Games, and I traded in. Back then, I think I was working at Burger King, or maybe I was a gas station attendant. So I traded in, I think, like 50 Dreamcast games that I just weren't playing. I had a huge collection of Dreamcast games. And on our way back, his car broke down. His car was a piece of shit. So we're basically just sitting there on the side of the road, waiting for it to cool down. And then finally we get back, and I just remembered him telling him, like, as we're going up to my bedroom, I was like, this better be worth it. And, I threw it in, and instantly, right from the get-go, I was like, okay, this is 10 times better than I remember. This is awesome because the obvious Aliens references are obvious. And that whole intro, right from there, I was like, okay, right here, it's worth it. And I've been in love ever since.
I want to hear more about you going up to the bedroom.
Well, that's for the late night podcast.
Halo After Dark.
How about you, Saul? What was your first experience?
Nothing special. I mean, I was 2001. I was what, like 7 years old?
Oh my God.
Yeah. My age is showing. I think the main thing for me was, it wasn't just Halo per se, though Halo was a big part. Before Halo, in fact, at that time, all of my consoles were all gifted to me by my one relatively rich family member, my aunt. So the first one was a PlayStation. So before this, I was a PlayStation guy. Spyro, Spider-Man, Crash, the whole thing, which I play now too. But either way, and then the Xbox came next. I think my big brother's birthday, and Halo. You start playing, and like you said, immediately the controls feel completely weird. It took me quite a while to get used to the twin sticks and the movement. In fact, at first I thought, this is terrible. Like, who designed this? This doesn't make any sense for movement. And then at one point, it kind of just clicks. And I think for me, for Halo, the moment where it really clicked for me were two moments. One, of course, was the whole split screen aspect. Playing immediately with, I had a lot of siblings, so it was immediately a big thing. And with that, the library, obviously, the very first level, that will always be with me. And then the game ends on such a high, like Halo 1, that Warthog run at the end, that immediately it cemented me as like a lifetime fan. No matter what happens in the future, I will be playing this game and this series forever.
That's awesome. And so I take it you guys had a chance to play this with the Duke controller then. Huh?
Oh yeah, heck yeah.
Oh, that was the best way to play.
Try playing it, I guess. Those 7-year-old hands.
Gigantic hands, so it was perfect.
Black and white buttons were placed so terribly.
Yeah.
The first thing I thought about was that bad controls, and I was like, what? I don't remember bad controls, but then I thought, oh, that's right, they had the black and the white buttons. Which are
also, we're used to the quality of current analog sticks. The original analog sticks weren't nearly as good.
See, I don't remember that for some reason. And I came from... Yeah.
They were better than others had been, but if you try and go back and use them compared to what 360 and then 1 and all that has had, it is a noticeable improvement, which I feel whenever I have gone over to my... God, it's actually been a while since I moved to Florida. But before that, going to my cousin's house, him having the original, going back to that controller, was like, yeah, this just is not as precise.
And it feels plasticky too, right? A little bit.
Yep. They upped the build quality quite a bit.
For me, it was also the placement. I was kind of used to the DualShock, which was huge. I remember, I think, Ape Escape was the game for that, but this is not a PlayStation podcast. So the
It should be an Ape Escape podcast, damn it.
Yeah, I agree. But the what they call it, asymmetrical, right, placement of the joysticks were completely different to me, and that made a big difference in a not good way right away. I'm like, this is terrible. This is never gonna work.
Yeah, for some reason, I never remembered those issues. In fact, I was one of those people that was resistant to all the changes that Xbox made when they moved over to the smaller controller. I liked the big fat controllers, but I was also one of the unusual people that skipped over the PS2. I came right from PC, and I was playing shooters on PC using mouse and keyboard. So I guess I just assumed it was going to be a little bit different anyways. And for some reason, I just don't ever remember that being much of an issue for me. Well, how about you, Proven? Like, what was your first time with Halo like?
Well, so the first time was either in 2001 or 2002. I was probably 5 or 6. I don't remember how exactly old. Sorry, I'm making everyone feel old.
For those keeping track, that's younger than me.
Yeah. So my dad used to play video games, but he doesn't anymore. But like early, he used to play like a bunch of PC games. Like I remember he had Medal of Honor on the PC. He had like a big like folder full of games. And then when the Xbox came out, or it was either right at when the Xbox came out or a little bit after, he got Halo. And I remember him and my uncle used to play co-op, and I would just watch them play co-op. And like I remember like just from watching the game, like being in love with it, being like I really want to play it. I don't think he let me play it until I was like a couple years older, so probably like 8 or 9. That's when I actually started playing. And then right around that time, that's when Halo 2 came out. And then I remember playing that on the Xbox One. Like I had all my friends over, we'd have LAN parties. And then when the 360 came out, that's when I first got Xbox Live, played Halo 2 online. So yeah, I started really early, and I've been basically playing ever since.
Wow, 5 years old, and then you should be a pro then. To be able to play Halo for 20 years, still be in your athletic prime. I'm expecting big things out of you.
I think I was playing. I think I was playing Super Mario Brothers 3 when I was 5.
We did our stream the other day, and it was pretty obvious at that point that I had to carry Proven. He wasn't that good. So.
Yes, definitely. I believe the game was Battlefield. But actually, I feel like that's kind of a thing. My younger brother, same thing. He started playing like 4 or 5, watching us play, and now he is very good, to put it lightly. He's destroying my controllers too.
Oh. Yeah, I wish I still had the quick twitch I had back in that day, but oh well, you can't do anything about that now. Hey, Don, did you have anything else about your first time with Halo?
No, pretty much going through the campaign, which was back and forth, going to one point and then pretty much working your way all the way back it is one of the constant nostalgic memories I have. And I'm not really that nostalgic. I can't go back to pretty much any other, even 360 and PlayStation 3 games, I have a harder time going back to. But I've started another playthrough, and that is in the Master Chief Collection. So obviously it looks and runs a lot better. But that is the one series, is Halo, is the one that I can always go back to. I can't do it with Mario. I can't do it with pretty much any 16 or 8-bit game. The only thing that always works for me is Halo. It clicked that hard.
It's timeless.
Yeah, that's the one thing about Halo is like I still play Halo 3 today, and that's 13 years old, and most games from 2007 are barely functional nowadays. And look, I'm still playing a game that came out 13 years ago, and it still feels pretty good. It's kind of a testament to how great the series is that all the games still feel good, and some of them are 2 decades old with Halo 1.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, it is interesting with Halo because not only does it hold up so well now, I mean, it's one of those rare games that was just a wow factor. You know, when it first came out, there was really nothing else like it on the console. And even coming from PC, I remember my jaw dropping a few times. But actually, my first story with it was also at I think it was at EB Games. I can't remember if it was what GameStop was back then. And I was with my ex at the time. We were looking around at rings in the mall, and she gave me a few minutes. After killing some time, or after spending some time looking for rings, she did give me a few of my own minutes to go into the gaming store and just kind of check some things out. I wasn't allowed to buy anything at the time because I was supposed to be saving up for her ring. And I remember, you can kind of see where this is going, but I remember
you said your ex, right?
Yeah, my ex. So that probably, yeah. Well, we'll get there. But I remember seeing Halo on a kiosk. It was on one of those kiosks, and I actually had a completely different impression from Mike. And I saw the night level in Truth and Reconciliation, and I remember getting my hands on it and playing it a little bit. And I didn't know too much what was going on, but I do remember, like, I went home that night and I just kept thinking about that game, and I could not get it out of my head. And like I told you, I wasn't supposed to buy anything. I was I was supposed to be saving up. But fortunately, my birthday's in December, and I think at that particular time, Xbox had launched a couple weeks previously, and so what happened is that day, or that was the next day, my ex went to work, and I remember going up. I had to go up to Sam's Club for something, and I remember seeing a Xbox bundle. So wouldn't you know it, when she comes home that day, I'm like, guess what, honey? My mom and dad got me an early birthday present. So that's how my first time with Halo started, and that's how you get off on the wrong foot in a relationship. So anyways, but yeah, I do remember Halo. It was one of those things that there's very few games that I ever played where I kind of remember where I was the first time I saw that game. Or I could just, there's still certain aspects of the campaign that stood out, like when my jaw dropped hitting the silent cartographer.
Oh yeah.
And Halo's really one of those few ones. I mean, I think maybe a couple. It's right up there with Zelda and everything, but I think that's the one that really stood this test of time the best for me.
Yeah.
So So anybody else have anything else to add on their first time with Halo?
I don't think there's any other game that I have all the levels memorized, games-wise. So, just that.
See, I don't even have that.
You think so, but then you can think back and you'd be like, oh yeah, there's this one and this one.
I know
and this
them
one.
all. The Quiet Cartographer. Boom. Nailed it.
Yep. All right, so we're gonna move on to some of our other topics. The next thing I want to talk about is the state of the demo from the July show, and I know it's been a few months now, but this is our first show, and I think we have to at least address that since we weren't able to do that live. So what I want to do is just take a few minutes and talk about what you saw back then. And just kind of what your general impressions were. Austin, I'll start with you.
Okay. Well, so for the demo, I was obviously very excited for it. They announced the game back in 2018, and obviously like the first Halo Infinite trailer like blew my mind. I was like, wow, this looks incredible. And then we waited a year, and then they didn't show gameplay. The next year it was just the in-engine trailer, and then we had to wait another year, and of course due to COVID and basically everything that's happened. Yeah, so it took more than a year. So basically it took more than 2 years since they announced to show the gameplay. So obviously I was excited that I took the day off of work just to watch it. And then overall, I liked what I saw, but there was definitely there was a few things that were lacking. Obviously, that's why there was a little bit of mixed feelings about the demo. So first, like the gameplay itself, like the active shooting, the grapple hook, like all the other stuff, like that looked good. Because the one thing you can say about 343 is they're really good at gameplay. Like I think they're better than Bungie when it just comes to like pure gameplay. And like just from the demo, it looked like something that was super fun. Like, I watched. I was like, yeah, I could play this right now. It looks really fun. But it kind of lacked a bit of like a wow factor, I guess. Like it didn't really show anything that was super like wow. Like it didn't really like it, unless you're a hardcore Halo fan like me. Like it didn't really exactly sell you. Like it was gonna be something that's entirely new. Even though we saw the open world, we saw a few new features. It wasn't anything like too mind blowing. But overall, like I liked what they shown, but obviously there was like some things that were wrong about it. There was the pop in, obviously the Craig meme that was born out of that. But yeah, so like overall, like I liked it, but they could have done a little bit better in my opinion. But I guess we're just gonna have to wait until the next demo to see what they have in store.
All right, I want to jump in here, and I want to say the simple fact that this is why video game developers don't actually show you what their video game looks like in these demos. And it's because up until give it 3 months, maybe 2 months on most of these, they're all on fire. They all have massive issues. Like you saw The Last of Us 2 leaked a dev build that was 3 months before launch, and it was pug fugly. And then the actual game released gorgeous. So, and it doesn't always happen, obviously. Not every game ends up being gorgeous, but it's been a very clear trend in the gaming industry that transitioning to work from home, especially on 1,000+ people projects, is really hard. Japan's incredibly far behind. They've had an even harder time adjusting to it with the way the industry works there. I think on the whole, I agree. It could have looked better. It would be nice for it to have looked closer to what the initial trailers were, but it's also a lesson in why these companies end up doing these very work-intensive and actually not very representative vertical slices all the time, because people don't want to see what the game looks like now. They want to see what it looks like a year or 2 years in some cases, or even just 5 months from now. And in what Microsoft has said, and hopefully it is the truth, is they don't want crunch. A big part of giving 343 more time was avoiding crunch,
reducing it to
there's always going to be overtime, but not having it be this, oh my god, everything's on fire, you're working 80 hours this week
for like months, right? Yeah, no, that's what they're trying to do.
Yeah, the Naughty Dog stories that come out where there are people who want to work all those hours and there are people that don't, but you don't have the choice. So I agree. I think the gameplay looked really fun. That was actually the initial takeaway from pretty much everyone I could find was, man, that gameplay looks really fun. Boy, I hope the graphics look better by release. And then the Craig thing came from pausing an unfinished animation. It sucks.
One frame in 60.
It's funny.
Are you serious?
Yeah, and they owned it. They the same way they did with the leaks that just happened. Their social media is rolling with it. They're going with it, and they're not letting, they're not going to let people try and run this narrative in a way they don't want. So, yeah, I agree. It could have looked better. I think there are valid reasons why, and hopefully the extra time does give them what they need to be able to make it look like those trailers. But holy crap, that game looks fun to play, and I cannot freaking wait.
Yeah, Mike, how about you, man? What did you think when you saw that game?
Oddly, that was one of the very few times I was kind of caught up in the hype at first. Well, it's weird because I was watching it. I was talking to a buddy of mine as we were watching it, and the intro to it looked almost as good as the trailer that came out last year. Like the character model. Right? Yeah, the cutscene. The because the cutscene that was shown at E3 last year is supposed to be the opening of Halo, and the opening cutscene to the demo looked almost as good. Really, the thing that stuck out to me was the shadows. The shadows just looked lower res, dithered, stuff like that.
Yeah, I agree. I think Digital
and-
Foundry said the same thing.
Yeah, and it, you know, like I've always been interested in how the sausage is made with gaming, and it's been kind of a double-edged sword because, you know, like screen tearing, for example.
Yeah.
Like I've grown up with friends that had no idea what screen tearing is, and we'll be playing a game that has screen tearing, and I'm like, oh my god, this is like this is tearing my eyeballs apart. And they're like, what are you talking about? I was like, you see that screen tear on the top where like it splits? So like they didn't see it until they knew what it was, and then it stuck out to them like a, you know, turd in a punch bowl.
And then they cursed
And
you forever.
What now?
Then they cursed you forever for opening their eyes.
Yeah. So, you know, like the shadow resolution didn't look quite as good, and the lighting just didn't look right. And then, you know, it cuts up to the gameplay, and I was like, so part of me, I was like, all right, I'm in. But then the other part of me is just like, man, I hope this is early. And there were signs that made me believe it was early. You know, like you can see on the corner of the screen as he's turning around, you can see the grass kind of like being called and being popping off of screen. And then the one thing that really stuck out to me was as he's shooting the grunts that were near the beginning, the bullets look like they're coming from underneath the gun. You know, it doesn't look like it's coming from the actual nozzle of the gun, at least to me. And so there are all these signs that made it seem like it was extremely, extremely early. The draw distance of the grass in general when he's driving around the Warthog was extremely short. And so like just throughout the whole thing, I'm like, okay. And then a lot of the stuff that was picked up in Digital Foundry, like the in the shadowed area, the areas without direct lighting, it just looked really flat. Just a lot of that stuff really stuck out to me. And I just kept on telling myself, like, this looks like, you know, Jesse was saying, it looks fun. But I just kept on saying, like, man, I really hope this is early. And then, you know, they updated the blog post saying that the build was a couple weeks old. And I'm like, oh, God, no. What are they releasing here? And so it's weird because, you know, at the end, they had the speech there. And it wasn't like the best in-game speech. But still, I think it was more so the music than what was being said. I think it was more so the music and the trailer clips that were being played during the end. You know, of that, like them showing Master Chief in the spaceship and all of the different UNSC ships just go red X'd, and then the pilot kneeling down in front of a crater. A lot of that looked better than what we saw of the gameplay. So I think between the music and the better clips that were in the trailer at the end, once it ended, I shot my arms up. I was like, I'm in. So like that was one of the very, very, very few times that the hype kind of got to me in a good way. And then the more I looked into it, the more I watched it. Granted, like the 1080p trailer during the actual stream did not do the demo justice. Once I watched it again at a 4K trailer, it looked a lot better. It looked like a high-end current gen game, which is kind of what I was expecting, but I was hoping for more. I never believed their line about, you know, this was optimized and built for the Series X, because it's not. But it was good. It looked good. Another thing that stuck out to me is one of the rumors was that they were going for a camera angle, the uncut. I forgot what it's called. It's got an actual term.
No cuts.
Single shot.
Oh yeah.
What now?
A single shot.
Yeah, but they actually demonstrated that in the demo. So I don't know if that's going to be through the entirety of the game, but I thought it was cool about how they played it off in the demo. And then, of course, there's the opening sequence where it has the ring and the press start. I mean, I did get some feels with that.
Yeah.
There is a reason for the shadows, which is if you've played and followed Destiny at all, one of the major issues Destiny has is whenever they change anything, if they move a rock, if they want to make any new content, it means completely recompiling and building a whole scene again.
Oh, yeah.
It's just an insane amount of work. And the way they had talked about it is they wanted this fully natural lighting system, which isn't going to look as good, but it's going to allow them to constantly change and create and add content. So if they are able to fix it enough, I think that is a trade-off that is worth it. Maybe not the best lighting in comparison to some other games, even with ray tracing if they're able to get it in. But if they can keep getting content out for that, 10-year vision they have for the game, I'd take that over the lack of content that always hits Destiny.
Yeah. That's one of the things with them using or moving away from like baked shadows, is that it doesn't require them to bake the shadows in the environment every time they change something. I really hope that they do something with like the indirect lighting. And I don't know what they can do with ray tracing. I know stuff like global illuminated ray tracing can help with that, but there is a clear difference between the detail that's shown in direct lighting and then in indirect lighting. And in some ways, I mean, I know that it was baked lighting in the older Halo games, but they handled it better in some ways, just maintaining that detail level throughout.
There is an issue for sorry to cut you off. There is an issue for the dev kits they're using for the Series X. The hardware's good to go, but their software, and there are people who are able to get the SDK and now the game core, the GDK, like it's a little behind. So I do think that contributed to it quite a bit as well. They're ahead in hardware. Sony's ahead in software. And especially pretty much everyone's pretty behind on software overall where they wanted to be. So I do think that was one of the main reasons. They got the gameplay right. Like the gameplay looks great, but they just didn't have the time to finish the graphics the way they wanted to. And that's, that's what they're going for now.
Yeah, I mean, that's really interesting that you brought that up, Don, because I think, honestly, this is the first time I think I've heard that. I knew they were, I knew they were using some sort of real-time lighting or whatever, but I didn't know why. Like, I didn't know if that was, what the purpose was. But that is interesting. And yeah, to your point, making the engine more flexible so they can deliver more content. I think if they would have explained that I feel like a lot of the Halo community might have been a little more receptive to that.
It might have just come off as like an excuse. So
yeah.
I mean, I think I was gonna say, I think one potential problem is they 343 probably didn't set expectations exactly correct. They probably should have been like, this is
pre-alpha or something, right?
Finished. Yeah, and I think like there was like the 7-day countdown from Xbox, and basically Xbox was basically like, this is the game that we're showing, and then we see the game, we're like, okay, it looks pretty good, but like it isn't exactly like
what you sold us.
It's one of those things where like I didn't like walk away from the dome being like, wow, this looks terrible. I just like, this wasn't exactly what I was expecting, but it was still something where I thought it looked good. But I think they probably should have set expectations a little bit differently, and then I think they should probably should have done that.
Yeah, I definitely did the opposite of temper. I did the opposite of what Nick would have.
I mean, this was the E3, right? This was the E3 where you don't temper anymore. This is it. And then COVID came, of course, but
But even, it's funny because even the rumors that were coming out, and I know rumors are rumors.
Yeah, you mean like the insiders, right? Yeah. They were hailing this game as like the second coming. Like, you won't believe your eyes.
There's 1,000 people on this game, and that demo you saw 2 years ago, that's in game, and So actually, I did get it first. I will say I think my opinion's similar-ish. I was probably more let down than some of you guys described initially because of the graphics. Because again, I think there's people that I heard from that were like, yeah, they got 1,000 people. This thing is supposed to be amazing, and even some of the general media, like some of the reputable media were like, whoa, yeah, wait till you see what Halo's like. And obviously none of that kind of came to fruition with that demo. But I think, Don, to your point, yeah, you're right. Like vertical slices are not good. They're not necessarily a great indicator in terms of what a game's going to be either way. I talked to one of the guys that I actually play Halo with, has been developing assets for a couple of decades, and I was talking to him about that, and he finally got a chance to look at it, and I remember like that night he was looking at it live, and he's like, "Whoa, why did they show this? That looks like a placeholder, and this doesn't look ready," and he's like, "Well, that's kind of what a lot of the games look like up to that point, up until very late in development." But usually they know better than to show that, because you'll get something that's like a really usually when you're looking at a vertical slice, you're not really looking at the game, is what was explained to me. Is usually you're looking at something that's kind of duct taped together, and it's like, yeah, don't go around that corner because you might not have any textures over there, and things like, and we even learned from looking at documentaries and Halo 2 that the demo they showed a year and a half before the game came out could never have been created on the system, and so you just never really know how that correlates. And it's obvious that they're running behind, but he was telling me that even when he builds assets for games, is so you have different builds, and sometimes you might have better looking assets, but they're not going to be put into that build until maybe they'll break the build, right? Like maybe you'll put it in there and then it won't run as well. And if they're trying to show it off at 60 frames, you might not see some assets that are made. And he kind of mentioned too that yeah, the demo you saw 2 years ago, that's the target. It doesn't mean that's what they're going to hit, but that's still really what the target is. And that's usually when they're showing something like that, it's because that's what they're shooting for. So yeah, I was pretty let down when I saw it, but I think for me, the thing that in hindsight, the only thing that I was more let down with was really just maybe the awareness of whoever was marketing it, and to go, oh yeah, this looks like it's ready to show our next gen system. That's where my biggest criticism.
We'll never know, most likely, but I do think a part of it would come from the extra time you would take on a vertical slice would have started for a June show, would have started right around when COVID hit. So right. They're not going to say it because it's just going to come off as excuse making to those who want to see it that way. But it had to have deeply impacted their ability to make it a vertical slice, to make sure assets were final, so that Craig's face actually animated when he was done, and every brute didn't look the exact same. There was more variety in everything.
Especially with them already being behind as it is, and them being under the gun, taking time to create a vertical slice, it would take away from the development process. And just like what you're saying, OBM, like really just with both of their shows, one of the biggest issues I've had wasn't so much the shows themselves, even though there's plenty to be said there, but just the expectations that were built up. If they managed expectations better, it's weird. Like, it's a fine line on getting people pumped, excited for your product, but then also making sure expectations are within reason. Because I don't expect them to go, look, we're going to show Halo and it's going to look rough. But
we're not lying to you. It's not pretty.
But at the same time, they kind of amped it up for months. They mentioned it with the May showing.
I kind of feel like it wasn't necessarily just 343 and Xbox there. We had a lot of insiders, and this is a whole different discussion of who you trust, who you shouldn't trust. We had a lot of insiders hyping the crap out of this game, of this showing specifically.
Yeah.
I think a part of it comes from that they had their expectations for what was going to be ready in June. And even though the world changed and everything changed timeline-wise, they were still going on that cadence. They didn't adjust. So what they had was good, but it was pushed a little more than it should have been. Not a ton, but just enough, and they don't get the benefit of the doubt. So it is what it is.
Well, I don't even think you have to necessarily go, hey, this is going to... You could just say, hey, this is an early build, or this is now indicative of the...
They should have had like a pre-alpha something beforehand.
Yeah,
well,
something.
I would imagine there, though, that if they said this is an early build or this is pre-alpha, that would have raised other kind of concerns if you're telling people that this is pre-alpha 3 months before launch.
Yes, you're right. That's the other problem.
Yes. So like... it was pretty clear to me, like I said, I was hoping it was an older build, but then they said it was 2 weeks old, 2 or 3 weeks old. And that's when like red flags really started raising for me. It was fun, though. It looked fun.
No, absolutely. It does look fun. And I think we're all in the same boat there. To me, it looks like it's got that classic Halo sandbox focus again, which is where I think 343's really missed in the last two games, is that they've been a little bit too corridor, a little bit too linear. But I know that's more of another topic for another time. Yeah, it is. But I do think, you did bring up a good point that, hey, if we would have said it was pre-alpha, then people are going to be like, what? You're supposed to be releasing this soon. And obviously we saw it got delayed.
Yeah, so in hindsight, it would have worked. But yeah.
So it brings up a good point, right? Like why didn't somebody just make that call earlier, or how did they not see that earlier? But now here we are. We do know it's delayed, and that really takes us to our next.
1 second, I haven't given my impressions, which will be short. Yeah. They won't be long. I'm definitely more bullish. I think that's the correct term. I've seen Nick use it, so I don't know if it's used correctly. I'm more bullish on the demo than I think I'm probably with Jesse here. My first impression was when the cutscene looked good, and then the door opened up, my first impression was just, wow. I like the world, I like the sky, and to be honest, all the reaction videos and the streams I saw, that was generally the general impression people got. Like, literally just the words, wow. And then as I'm watching the demo, I can't say I really cared too much about the graphics as I was first watching it, let's say. Instead, stuff like the Warthog driving looked crazy smooth. The shield animations, or the physics rather, of the enemies getting hit, that shotgun like blasting through people, that reminded me of some of the older Halos for sure. Because even Reach, I played it recently, and elites barely moved when you hit them. In fact, they didn't move at all until you took the shield out, and they kind of felt weird. While in this, you have them like moving completely, like crunching over. And I think the thing with me is, one thing everyone can agree, in my opinion, with 343 is, at least in the two games they've released, Halo 4 and Halo 5, they look good.
Yeah.
Halo 4 looked amazing. How did that even run on a 360, right? And Halo 5 stylistically might have had issues, but still, graphically, it looked pretty decent. So I can't say I'm too worried about the graphics. I mean, they've kind of proven themselves that they can do a decent job. And a lot of the complaints I thought were more of a stylistic choice. The brutes, for example, looking flat, plasticky. That felt to me like it's just cartoony style again, right? Like Halo 3 had a very cartoony style. Less gritty, more stylized, you could say. The grass, same thing. The big pillars in the background, those are not placeholders, in my opinion. That's just how it looks, the color tone, etc. So for me, it was more so focusing on stuff like shooting a brute as they're chasing or as they're sprinting and watching them stumble, or stuff like the music, which stuck out to me immediately. Like the fact that the composer of Ori's in this is one of the most exciting news I've had with this entire game. Ori 2
great point.
Basically made me cry multiple times. I would watch the reactions and I would almost tear up, and I never tear up, okay? But it's almost like 90% just the music. And in this game, you have the track that played when they're in the speech, which once you hear the headphones, hits a lot harder, the speech too. Then you have the track as he's climbing up the hill, which is, the elevator, which is also amazing. So for me, I'm less concerned about the graphics because at the end of the day, I think 343 will do their job and have, if not top tier, still like graphics enough that you can't nitpick. At least not the way we are right now. I'm happy about the delay. If the game needed work, 100% it needed work. We'll talk about that soon. But not the graphics for me. It's just the game looked fun to play, and that's more than enough for me to play and for me to convince whoever I can, like, hey, let's play this game.
I did like some of the animation feedback, like you said, like the one brute that he got shot with a shotgun and he reached, at his back, reached around. Stuff like that did stand up to me, and obviously they kind of, I don't want to say scripted, but they planned to.
Oh, the throwing of the grunt.
No, the brute coming after you and you're shooting his knee and he trips over.
Oh yeah, of course.
Stuff like that.
Yeah.
I mean, all that was really nice. The whole cartoonish thing, I don't know, because the brute at the end, he had a lot of detail. Like he's supposed to be war-weathered.
I think that was like a misplaced texture or something. I'll be honest. It looked like half of his face was textured and the other half wasn't. I don't know why they zoomed in so much.
I'm not even talking about his face texture. If you look at his armor, it looks chipped.
Oh, that's what
it looks like it's yeah. So I think just applying those types of details to the general armor of the brutes would go a long way.
For sure.
Yeah, the brute that had all the red on, the one that he used a grappling hook on the first time, was a very clean armor. And you can either look at that, it's supposed to mean he's a big guy and doesn't have to fight that much, he's higher up. But I do think that's just more of it's an unfinished asset.
I feel like if you treat the demo as a demo of a game coming out in 3 months or a demo of a game coming out in a year, your expectations kind of change drastically.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That's fair.
Yeah, and I think if we come away from that demo and the worst part of the really the only thing that we're focused on in terms of what we didn't like is the graphics. As a Halo fan, I guess I would rather be there than anywhere else.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's kind of a win for us.
I agree.
Yeah. Hopefully that's something that's easier to fix than entire gameplay mechanics.
Yeah, and story. Hopefully it's good this time, please.
Yeah, and honestly, this is not a topic for the show either. But if I think if they would have had another in-game demo that was impressive to something to show up the Series X, it probably would have.
Yes, 100%.
Yes,
we would have been a lot more accepting.
Or really, and I'm not going to harp on this too much, but if they would have just shown anything on the Series X, I think that would have been that would have gone a long way. Anything Microsoft.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to give too much. I'm not going to give.
There's been some.
A few seconds. It's not that much. I'm not going to give them too much, hardship for it though. This is kind of the most insane year I think anyone living has currently lived through. Well, no, that's a bold claim, but you know what I mean.
In recent memory, and there is that software development kit is a part. It has to be a part of why they haven't shown things actually running on it yet, because Sony is ahead of that. They've been showing more on that. And then, but for the Xbox, their hardware, good to go. Phil's already got it at his house. The retail packaging, all that. Like, I really believe that both the game and the hardware weren't November targets. They were most likely September or October targets. And, that is just all the stuff that's really gotten pushed back. And I'm probably wrong as hell, but Nick thinks very much has felt like that.
Probably.
All right, well, I think this is a good time to cross over into our next topic, and I think some of this does transition into that, where we can talk about the release date for what we think the release date of Halo is based on
2026.
Oh, really?
Oh, sorry.
So on that note, Don, why don't you go ahead and elaborate?
Personally, and I am not an insider. I am just an idiot. But I talk to insiders who aren't idiots. And from what I've heard, the game, the campaign, the story, that has been content complete for a while. Like, you can play the game start to finish. Doesn't mean they're not going to touch things up or add to it, especially with some of the changes they've done that we'll talk about. But as far as actually why the game was delayed, it seems to be we couldn't finish it by November without really crunching hard. we might have had to not have some of our multiplayer modes, and we weren't going to have the graphics done, because the focus started out as engine, build this new engine. We need something that gives us better tools for giving us an opportunity to build this giant decade-long vision we have. Secondly was gameplay. We need the gameplay to be fantastic. We're really focusing on that. And okay, oh crap, it's getting close to release. Now we're going to really push the graphics. And thankfully, with the way Microsoft is now, having way more first-party studios, not being the Halo Forza Gears company, which people still try to say they are, they're not, that they have the time to go and finish the graphics, finish the multiplayer modes, and doing that isn't going to be a year, like Special Ed likes to say. I really don't think it's going to be that long. You know, a 6-month delay at the most. Early, you know, anytime from March to, you know, June, May of next year, that type. Because of COVID, they're also not going to have as much. They already pushed back it was rumored they pushed back Forza to really focus on Halo. So their big games next year are most likely going to be Halo early and Forza into an early access late in the year, along with getting Flight Simulator onto consoles. So I don't see it going past this fiscal year. So I would bet nothing because I'm poor, but I would definitely say strongly first half of the year, maybe early in the first half, depending on how things go.
I think that's a pretty fair prediction. Proven, how about you? What do you think?
Well, I agree. I think it's most likely in the first half of the year. I guess it just depends if everything we've heard is true and they basically just need the extra time to polish. Then I'm expecting around April, May, June, around there. If they find other issues that they need to delay the game a little bit further, I can see it going past that, but I'm hoping that doesn't happen. Because like we said, like we've heard the rumors or the insight that the campaign is basically done. We really haven't heard anything about multiplayer yet, but I assume that's coming along fine. I'm hoping to see gameplay before the year ends. That would be nice. But yeah, I'm expecting, within the first 6 months of 2021 is probably the most likely bet.
Mike, how about you? You on the same page? You got something different?
Yeah, I think so. Their fiscal year ends in July, so it's going to be. I would imagine they're going to try to get it out before the end of July. I think. I would almost, depending on how far back they are, because they said that it's going to. They said that they're going to add ray tracing shortly after launch. So it does make me question how far we're from, like, I wonder if they're going to possibly try to get it out within the first 3 months, if they could, just to have, because after the holiday rush, they're going to have something. Granted, we don't know their entire 2021 plan so far, but that would be a hell of a thing to keep the momentum going. So I can see it going from between March to July timeframe, even before July, because they're going to have it go gold, press copies, launch it so that they can profit within their fiscal year.
Yeah, I think that's a kind of a good bet with the fiscal year. How about you, Sol?
When's the fiscal year end again?
July.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Personally,
I think July 22nd.
22nd, like what, the equinox or something?
What?
Nothing. That's June 21st. Yeah, mine's pretty simple too. I think ever since there's this one game that came out in April and did stupidly well. It was a small little game called God of War, and since that game came out, the whole myth of fall is the only time to really launch a good game. You launch a game in February or other months, just sending it out to die or whatnot. I feel like that's not the case anymore, especially for first-party titles.
Oh, you mean like that Monster Hunter World game that launched in January?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like launching early makes you less likely to be considered for Game of the Year. Not that really matters. But in terms of months, I personally think everything you guys said, minus the fiscal year stuff, I didn't think about that at all. But I think the game's pretty close to completion. Didn't Phil mention that they could have released the game in pieces? Or in parts, sorry?
They had thought about it. They decided not too quickly, but they were like, could we do it this way?
The fact that they even
it is something that's a possibility.
The fact that they even considered it means I don't think the game is as far from development as others think. And if the game is truly playable from start to finish, then, and if it's all that's really needed is just touching up graphics, performance, multiplayer, then I think April is my date. I think that's enough time. That's what 6th, 8 months or so, right? Wait, not the 6th. Sorry, April's the 4th. My math is not my strong suit. So 6 months, half a year. I feel like that's a decent amount of time to give them something to launch incredible.
That was the Brad Sams report where he's like, oh, they might just put out multiplayer first and hold back campaign.
Yeah.
And then 343 sketchy. Like, they really pushed back on him because I think it's actually the other way. I think if they were going to do anything, it was campaign first, then maybe flight multiplayer, but an actual full multiplayer release was going to be the thing held back because that's what was further behind as far as finishing all the modes and balancing and everything for multiplayer.
I could see that.
I think a lot of times these things get a little twisted because I mean, even when Phil came on, I can't remember what program he went on. He did an interview and he said, "Yeah, it was on the table."
Animal Talking, whatever.
Animal Talking,
Gary Whitta.
Animal Talking. Yeah, and he said it was on the table, but at the same time, when you're in an executive position, you put everything on the table.
You're right.
So it's not that doesn't necessarily mean that was something they were going to do. Is just, hey, okay, here's an option. But the fact that I think to your guys' point, and so my prediction would be kind of boring because I think it's in line with everybody else's. But when you hear stuff like that, hey, part of the game's done, or we thought about, really up until the last second, we thought we could still make it. We were going to go for it, all that kind of stuff. You got to assume you're pretty far into the process. And, I know, like, I listened to a lot of different predictions, and then a lot of people have talked about late 21 or 2022. But, really, in my mind, from everything that we do know for at this point in time, not going by any crazy, dark corner internet rumor, everything we do know at this point in time, seem to indicate that the game is pretty far along and it's the technical stuff. And as Don, as you said before, and as I talked to a developer about it too, is, a lot of times that those graphics do come together really, really late. Even with God of War, I know that was one that 6 months before release looked rough and then they put it together,
didn't they also
on a new engine.
Spend like 18 months working on just that one 2018 demo, and then the rest of the time, not 2018, sorry, 2016 demo. I remember reading that in either the documentary that released or a blog post. I might need a source on that, so take you with a grain of salt. But yeah.
No, actually, there's an article on it where Yoshida he played the God of War demo 6 months before it came out, and he's on record. There's an article here. He says, "I was horrified." He said it just played awful. The frame rate was broken. The game was broken, but that's not, again, when they kind of discussed that, they said that, hey, it's a new engine, a lot of things came together late in that. And a lot of times, especially when you are building a new engine, and in this case here, you have a new console. We know the API. I mean, we've heard from a lot of different people, the APIs and things like that come along with the RDNA 2 or not. They're coming in hot, right?
It's new tech.
That's why you're not seeing a lot of next gen stuff right now. And I think we'll have a clearer picture on things here, hopefully soon. But yeah, so I mean, when those types of things are going on, and you know that late in the development process is when a lot of things come together, and you're only looking at graphics, then yeah, I think 6 months, a 6 month delay is a pretty fair, guesstimate on that, especially since it fits in the fiscal year. But I think the only thing that kind of throws people off, and this maybe transitions into our next thing, is, well, then why are you bringing in Joseph Staten and these other guys? Like, did you find something else? Sometimes when there's an issue or there's like a flag, and then you pull back the curtains a little bit, maybe you find a lot more mold than you expected. And was there something bigger? Because I honestly think this is either a 6-month graphic delay or they uncovered something.
If you uncovered something, though, you wouldn't preface it by saying I'm joining or he's joining us for a bit.
True. Does anybody have the statement on the Staten?
Yeah. So on the Halo Waypoint blog post, they go on to say, we're excited to announce our old friend Joseph Staten will be returning home to Halo for a bit. After helping launch Tell Me Why this week, he'll be coming on board as project lead for campaign as we push towards our 2021 release. The team has been working hard, realizing our vision for campaign, and we're happy to have Joseph's help to get it to the finish line. He also goes on and to say in Twitter, I'm thrilled to join Halo to help them ship Halo Infinite. As the project lead for the Infinite campaign, I will be supporting the team's existing great leaders and empowering them to do their best work. He also goes on to say that please don't expect to hear much from me. I've got a lot of catching up to do. So it does seem like he's kind of there to, I don't want to say steer the ship because that makes it seem like it's gotten off rails, but I mean that's kind of sounds like what he's there to do. Like he does talk about their great leaders, but
maybe he's there to man the sails. Maybe he's better at manning the sails than the other people there.
Yeah, like I'm not sure. I know that they lost 2 campaign leads last year within like 3 months of each other. I don't know who has taken over since then.
Yeah, I don't either.
I think it was just there was it Chris Longo who was in charge of the entire thing? Just
Chris Lee,
sorry.
Yeah, he's the studio head.
Yeah, I believe he may have transitioned into the role. I remember hearing something like the role wasn't replaced after the second one left.
Well, that would feed into if the campaign is content complete, then the focus shifts to polishing, finishing graphics. And again, it's all speculation. We'll probably never find out unless you get someone who just spills the beans 20 years down the line. So you look at it, it could be okay, it's in trouble and they don't like it, so they replace him. Chris Lee replaces him with himself to finish it, and they bring in Joseph after he finishes working on Tell Me Why to help him do that, so it's not all on him. Or it could be the campaign was done, people move on to their next job, and Joseph really is just coming in. So like, okay, work from home's been really hard. I'm going to be an extra hand on deck to try and help you coordinate all this, because holy crap, is it hard to do this with 1,000 people.
I mean, I've always wondered though, like content complete can mean a few different things. Content complete means they have the enemies done, they have the weapons done, they have everything that's in the game. But I do wonder, one of the things that's always been a strength of the Halo franchise is their encounter designs. And with them moving to a more open world design, especially like the second half of the game, I imagine it's going to be a bit more difficult to keep that refined encounter design balance in an open world. And so, I do wonder if just the overall flow of the campaign might not be as well or as good as they had hoped. And that might be something that they brought them in to help out with. Like, content complete. I don't know if that means, obviously the campaign's not complete. And
it was worded in a way to mean you can start the campaign and play it all the way through to finish.
Yeah.
That's how it was worded to me.
And
obviously,
they even said that
a lot of polish and everything. Yeah. There's you always want to make it better. You get extra time now. You bring in another guy to help lead that. I'm sure that is part of the the focus.
Yeah, I do wonder how malleable that engine is. I mean, I think that was part of the intention of it as well. And so I do wonder, any creative person is going to want to tinker, right? So I could see them, even if they thought it was content complete, could look at it and go, I don't like this and this and this, and now that we got time, maybe we can work on that stuff. But go ahead, man.
Yeah, sorry. Just one other thing was they have 4 other studios helping them. So a part of the management is helping manage those other studios, and a big job could be for it seems, and I don't know for 100%, but much like Forza Horizon 2 had a different developer do the 360 version, I wouldn't be surprised if one of those studios is focused on the Xbox One version. At the very least, the One S version, making sure it actually runs on there, because that's some old hardware, and being able to coordinate with them, especially now with everything transitioning and losing months, the more leadership you have in a situation like that, the better. So I think that's also a huge part of why you would bring someone known as a closer on games that have been having various issues, like Joseph, aboard.
They did confirm that the game would still release on the 1S, right? After the delay?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's going to happen. From a business standpoint, I don't care what the rumors say.
From the xCloud and Game Pass standpoint,
I agree.
You can't just
I agree.
pull it
I still
away.
agree. But with the $299 Series S, I'm not as solid on that idea anymore. As in, they can't.
It's xCloud still not going to be.
That's true with the Series
S hardware for a while. So you've got free to play multiplayer. You've got this campaign. You've got 10 plus million, probably closer to 15, already on Game Pass. So from their standpoint, you've already put in years of work on it.
That's true.
What is the benefit?
Yeah, it was designed
unless
for an
you're
going
to rebuild it. Yeah, you're not going to spend 3 years rebuilding it for only next gen. As nice as that would be.
Previously, I had the opinion that they should drop current gen, and it had nothing to do with them making it a quote unquote true next gen system. It was just more so of easing the burden on the developers to focus on the game that's there. But then, someone did point out, I think it was ZDocs that brought up xCloud, and that was a good point that I'd never considered, that it is going to be a big pushing point for xCloud, just like it is going to be for their systems, and they're not going to be upgraded to Series X hardware until probably late next year. And and the one thing that I hope they do end up doing, because one of the things that stuck out to me with the demo was it seemed like the game is targeting 60 still on current gen hardware, and I just really think they should drop it to 30 frames for the campaign, and then hold on to that 60 frames for the multiplayer. Because I imagine that the 1X was probably the lead for most of the development, and then they're going to port down to the 1S and OG model. But even with the 1X, just 30 frames, you're going to give yourself so much more freedom, especially in an open world game. Like we're talking about a semi-open world game that has dozens of enemies, fast action, hopefully competent AI.
They're really going to lean on the dynamic res, I believe, for the 1X. 1S and 1, I definitely think will be 30 no matter what. The 1X will most likely target 60 and not be anywhere near 4K most of the time.
Oh yeah, and that's gonna be fine for the graphical side, but when you're running your game at 60 frames, that's also more taxing on your CPU. That means that you have less CPU headroom for the AI, for things like draw calls to pull in the draw distance out in the distance, animations, stuff like that. It's just for the campaign, they really should just target 30. It would give them breathing room. And that would also increase the selling point of their next gen version. They're already making it a selling point that next gen multiplayer is going to be 120 frames per second. Have it so that the campaign is 60 frames per second on current gen.
I think, and I know this is probably another topic as well, talking about the Xbox One. But I think real quickly, I can't see that being scrapped. And I know it sounds good on paper to, to say, hey, let's everybody focus on this next gen thing. But the fact that they have 1,000 developers or paying for 1,000 developers is because they can justify that in the boardroom because they can sell it on the Xbox One and don't forget about the like other PCs, because a lot of people aren't going to have RDNA 2 cards or above, and this is with the investment they're putting in this game and the long term of it. It's, I think, expanding that base on PC and through xCloud and everything is going to matter. So yeah, I can't see that ever being an option. Pruden, what do you think, man? I haven't heard from you in a little bit. What do you think about Staten coming in and what this means for the release dates and all that stuff?
Well, I was gonna say, I think in the blog post when they mentioned that he's gonna be there for a little bit, I think the main reason they said that is because they don't want people thinking that he's coming back to 343 for good.
Yeah.
Because I know there's a lot of people that like kind of worship him because he's basically one of the key guys up there, like Marty O'Donnell,
one of the OGs,
who basically
right?
made Halo. Yeah, so I think they just didn't want people to be like excited that he's coming back to Halo forever. I think he's literally just there to ship the game and then leave. So I think they just wanted to make sure they set expectations correctly. But yeah, I mean, we don't really exactly know what his role is. I mean, basically it's just he's the campaign lead right now, but I don't really know what that means. Is he just there to kind of like land a plane, or is he actually gonna like change some things about the campaign? Is he gonna have an actual impact on the? Yeah, like is he gonna actually change like anything like fundamental about the campaign, or is he just there to watch over everyone and make sure they do their jobs? Like, I don't know exactly what he's doing. So
yeah, that kind of brought me to my point earlier about how much is he helping with encounter designs, and they can have the levels done, but like you were saying, Proven, he could be doing a lot more.
Yeah.
We won't really know, I feel, until the release date comes.
Yeah, I think once they show more, like, because obviously they haven't shown any other gameplay since. So hopefully once they show gameplay again, they'll kind of maybe talk about exactly what he's doing there, and then we'll kind of get a good idea. But until then, we kind of really don't know.
I'd bet that the next gameplay they show is going to be the multiplayer.
I think
you're probably right.
I hope so.
Well, and Prude, I think you said something that could hit the nail on the head. I mean, based on what you read there, Mike, with the statement, hey, I'm just going to be here for a little while to help finish it off. I mean, it does sound like he's being the closer, and and he is just there basically. Hey, the pod's coming in hot. Like, I just got to make sure I don't kill Master Chief. Just got to land.
The Marines can all die, though.
Just think about first level or second level in Halo CE, right? You just got to land that thing and make sure Chief survives. And you can't ever, in any kind of like business situation where you're coordinating like all these different studios and teams and everybody's remote. You can't underestimate what a leader who's been through that could mean. I mean, sometimes just for like the morale and the confidence, and having somebody that says, "Hey, yeah, I've flown this thing in hot 3 times in a row and made it, and so stick with me, just trust me on this." And somebody like that can even back up a Chris Lee, or just back up the studio in general, and it does a lot just to have everybody who's on that team going, okay, yep, we believe this guy, he's kind of a legend behind this franchise, and so we're going to trust what he says. It doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to have a dramatic impact on the details, like the detailed decisions. Not that he couldn't. I think, Mike, to your point, maybe he is. And I think we'll probably know more sooner than later. I think that, if the award shows come and we don't see anything again, then maybe this thing is further off. Maybe
PGA
this is not
that'd be my guess as well.
Yeah. That's
I mean,
what I was wondering if it would, how epic would it be? It'd be a hell of a comeback for for the game in general if they had a multiplayer trailer and then they either shadow drop the like the beta for the multiplayer, or they at least announce when the piloting program is going to start.
Yeah, I'm secretly hoping that to kind of make up for the game being delayed, they kind of just out of nowhere, they're like, okay, we're going to launch the Halo Infinite demo either the day of the Xbox Series S and X launch or within the first week, because I think that would make it up. Like, obviously, I have no idea that they're going to do that. But I think if we see gameplay before the end of the year, that would be great. But like, I honestly don't know when we'll see it next. But I'm hoping it's within the next couple months.
Real quick, speaking of multiplayer that we were talking about, another Halo veteran joined 343. Pierre Hintz. He was head of publishing for MCC. He joined as the Infinite team as project lead for the free-to-play experience, and he's going to be going over things like the flighting program. So that could be a hint of them possibly gearing up to start talking about their flighting program soon.
I feel like that's great news. MCC has been releasing game after game this entire year. Flight comes out 2-3 weeks or a month or so, game releases. Flight comes out a month ago, game releases. You know what I mean? Or 2-3 months. He's clearly great at his job. I actually didn't even know that he was that there was a second person also switching over to him to Halo Infinite. So it's good news for me because.
One of the big things that they pushed in his position was adding things. Like they added all those skins and different things into the Master Chief Collection, which was nuts. And that is, that's going to be how you monetize a free-to-play game, is pushing really good-looking cosmetics that people like. And they succeeded really well with that for free in the Master Chief Collection. And it pretty much seems like it was a test run. It's both going to help us sell more copies of the Master Chief Collection, and it's going to gear us up and get ready for what is now his job, or part of his job, on Halo Infinite, which is pretty darn smart.
The Battle Pass system in MCC is, for the most part, pretty solid. You can choose between the different seasons or the different tiers. You can choose which item to unlock in the current level you're at. It's definitely one of the better ones I've seen.
So I think in conclusion, we all think that there's a good chance that this comes out in the fiscal year, but I think we're going to know more sooner than later. It's still not a long time away, and if we're not hearing a whole lot by the end of the year, I think we can maybe all start to recalibrate or assume maybe they found some other things. But I know we're getting close to an hour and a half here, and I think it's about time that we should start to wrap things up. And I'm going to kick it off to Sol. Just give it a few minutes just to plug the site, forum, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, if you're watching this, chances are you already know of our site, our YouTube channel, the reviews we release, the forum we put up, and of course our Patreon. If you enjoy our content, and you really enjoy our content, every little bit is really appreciated. Even it doesn't have to be Patreon though, just a simple like and sharing of this video. We want to do more episodes of this podcast. If you enjoyed it, let us know. If you had some trouble, or if you had any suggestions or topics you want us to cover, or people you want us to mute. We want to keep this going for as long as we can. I mean, this is fun for us. We all love Halo. We all love talking about Halo, and we hope you guys love listening to us talk about Halo.
Thanks, Sol.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Yeah. All right, guys. Well, I think we're gonna wrap it up, and I just outro it. Does everybody want to sign off and say?
Yeah, let me.
Else?
Oh, wait, who's this that's in my room? Oi, everyone! It's me, Nick Special Ed Baker, host of the XboxEra podcast, and I just want to give my vote of confidence to these blokes. They're good ones. All right, bye. I love quackers.
What?
See, and he smells like lavender. It's weird.
I don't think we should go any further. I think that's the perfect way to end this.
Yeah. Yep. Thank you, everyone, for listening.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. We'll see you next time.
All right, see you guys later.